Hello, today I want to talk a bit about support, the support we can offer in school to our students. So the first one I'm going to talk about, I admit, can be costly. However, not necessarily as costly as it would have been a while ago. So that is the use of a laptop. It can be really, really extremely, I can't emphasize it enough, helpful to have a laptop in school. The reasons it's helpful are things like organising your thoughts. So you can just dump your thoughts onto paper and then pick out the ones that you want to come back to, which can help you to remember. When I say onto paper, I mean onto the screen, obviously. You can also just get your ideas, and it would then support maybe word retrieval. If you have a difficulty with word retrieval, you could type in whatever it is, and then you get to that word, oh gosh, what's that word? And it's here, I can't grab it, and it's just sort of like all over the place. Then you can just put thingy or whatever you want to put. It doesn't matter. Highlight it so you know to come back to it, and then the word might come back to you, the one that you want to use. You could use a simplified word and then come back and add the more sophisticated word that you actually want to use, but you couldn't think of first time. You're like, oh gosh, what's that word? Can't think of it. Doesn't matter. Put down thingy and then come back to that word afterwards. It also helps with things. So for example, the focus. So if you're handwriting, you've actually got 3 points of focus. You're focusing on the content, the composition, what is it that you're writing? But you're also concentrating on the physicality of writing, the physical act. So what is your handwriting like? And in addition to that, you're having to focus on the spelling, because you get one shot at it. Okay, and then if you've got to rewrite it, that's huge. If you've got a difficulty such as dyslexia, speech language communication needs, dyspraxia, ADHD, autism, all these things can just get in the way of you getting your ideas onto paper and concentrating on all those 3 things at once. If you've got a physical disability, if you've got, I had taught a child with cerebral palsy, and the physical act of handwriting caused him physical pain. It wasn't just that it was difficult and it was really untidy. I couldn't read his writing, but it also caused him pain. Never complained, but it was physically painful. And yet, in his previous school, he'd had to handwrite stuff. He was in year 4, he'd been handwriting, and he got told off for his handwriting. Ouch! No, he started using a laptop when he came to us, and he could just get so much more down, and his amazing brain, he could get it onto the page. Fantastic. Cerebral palsy and dyslexia together made writing by hand incredibly hard for him. Other physical disabilities that might make handwriting difficult. If you look at a previous video of mine, when I talked about Rosie, the one who loved this particular finger puppet, I gave her one. I had to get myself a new one. She had a problem because of her autism with physically touching the paper. Her hand on the paper was something that made her feel all horrible inside. So typing, and she was an artist as well, she used a computer, and not only that, she learned how to transfer a lot of her art onto the computer, and she does it on the computer. Amazing. I mean, look at that video. She's amazing. But yeah, so all these are good reasons for using a computer, a laptop. Now, I talked about it being costly. However, a lot of schools now actually have banks of computers that they didn't have before the pandemic, because they needed to give out computers for people to access their learning from home. So we've got these laptops in school now. Not every school. Some schools, the parents have to provide the laptop, but in a deprived area where the parents can't provide a laptop, hopefully the schools have now got a bank of computers that they can then use to support these children with learning needs. And people say, oh, why would you do it in primary school? Why wouldn't you? Let's face it, if you get to secondary school and you've never used a laptop before, as well as learning all that new stuff with all those new teachers and all those other subjects and all that moving around from one class to another, you then have to add to that the burden of learning how to use a computer and a laptop in class. Why? When you could have learned that in primary school. The earlier you learn it, the more the more concentration you can have to actually the content, the learning of the actual subject area rather than the learning of how to use the laptop. Let's get that sorted in primary school so that when we get to secondary school, that is just another tool that we're using. And people say, oh, but they can have a scribe. Yeah, but how is that helping our children to be independent? I don't have a scribe. I can't say, oh yes, can you just come along and do my writing for me? No, I have to do it for myself. But by using a computer, I had the old Amstrad when it first came out. I've been using a computer as long as we've had home computers, and it's what's made my job doable and doable well. I can do it well because I've had that aid of technology. Since I learned to use Dragon Naturally Speaking, that's helped a lot. It's difficult sometimes in class because obviously talking into your computer could disturb some other children. But in terms of, there are days when I don't even touch it, forget it's there. Other days I'm typing away, I look at the screen, it is gobbledygook. On those days, I speak into my computer and I can get the work done. Now, the other argument, people say, oh, but they don't learn about punctuation, they don't learn about spelling. Yes, you do actually, because the computer, the technology, the say it's Dragon, if you don't dictate punctuation, it doesn't put any in. It's as simple as that. So you have to say full stop, capital letter, comma, question mark, new line, whatever it happens to be. You say those things in, you dictate them. The same is true with spelling. You have to spell check it because it puts in other versions of the word or it slightly mishears you. So you have to learn to use a spell checker. If you don't have the software for voice recognition and you're typing, you still have to use your punctuation. You still have to check your spelling. So these things aren't taken away. And then the handwriting can be a separate task. If you've composed something on the computer, you might be asked to then copy out X amount of it by hand. That then becomes a simple handwriting copying activity. That's it. That's all there is. You're not having to think about the spelling. You're not having to think about the content. So the other thing is reorganizing your ideas later. So for example, on the computer, when I was doing my doctorate, I would dump my ideas onto the page. They'd be reasonably well written, but they weren't necessarily well organised. So I'd speak with my supervisor and she'd say, you do realise you've already said that? And I'm like, no, I haven't. Yes, you have. Look at the page, find it. That can then just be removed. Simple as that. But also, she'll say, what are you trying to say there? So I'll tell her and she'll say, well, what's the main point? And I might need to just put that paragraph ahead of that other paragraph or whatever. I could do that without having to rewrite the whole lot. So a really simple thing, using a laptop in school, and let's start doing that as early as possible. Similarly, actually, is using a voice recorder. When I was doing most of my doctorate, I had a different supervisor, and I would go home, think I knew what I was doing. I'd made notes. My notes didn't make any sense, and I wouldn't do all the things we'd discussed in the meeting. This particular supervisor, I'm going to mention her name because she's amazing, Christy Howells, she is fantastic. She got me recording all of my my supervisory sessions, and I could go home. I did scribble some notes, but it all made sense because I could listen back to what she'd said and then actually act upon it and not just forget it. So sometimes having a student being allowed to record certain things, not necessarily a whole lesson, but there might be key points that it's worth them recording on a voice recorder. Simple as that. Can make a huge difference. So other things that can make a difference, okay, that aren't costly. Having things like the finger puppets. They can be good as comforters. I've talked about puppets a lot. I'm not spending ages on them today. They can also be little fidgets because they are soothing to stroke. They can be things that calm somebody down once they've been stressed. If there's been something that's got them all up here, just calming down. It's really very calming to actually hold the finger puppet. I'm saying finger puppets because they're things you could have actually with the child at all times. It doesn't have to, a big puppet. I have used bigger puppets that children have had on their desks. That's normally a primary age thing. Some of these things work better at different ages, but a lot of them doesn't matter. This, oh my gosh, the simple fidget string. There is one of my videos on how to make them. 4-strand plait using 4 different textured bits of, in this case it's wool, other times I'll use like a cord, and you can pull at it, which gets out that tension if you need that, or you can just fidget with it. It's a silent fidget, so it doesn't annoy the teachers. It also, if you do something like this where you make it yourself for the child, then the teacher knows it's come from you and they're more likely to let the child keep it. The first one I made for a child who is now a young man, I remember encountering him. He was in year 6 at the time. I encountered him in year 8 and he said, "Look, miss, still got it in my pocket." I then saw him not that long ago when I was out, and he said, "These masks are great." "What are you talking about? You're wearing face masks." And he said, "Yeah, they're great because I keep one in my pocket and I can fidget with it just like the fidget string." And so that was helping him even as a young man, which was lovely to hear. There's other ones like this. This has like a marble in it, and so you can just pull that along, but you can also do all this fidgety string stuff. You can pull at it, you can just move it around. A useful little fidget. These are very popular at the moment. These things where you just pop them through and through. Nice little fidgets. Very popular. And there's all different shapes. So if you've got a young child, you could get one in the shape of their favourite animal or something like that. Whatever. Nice little fidget there. This is a bit noisier. Really quite clicky. I'll put it near the mic. Really quite clicky. However, this is very satisfying, and it could be really useful in a calming down thing if you keep it in your safe space. If you've got a safe space, you know, rainbow area, whatever you want to call it, where a child goes to calm down when they're stressed, they could maybe pick this up and play with it. This is a good one. Unless they're thumping it on a desk, it's actually quite quiet. It just turns, it just moves round and round, and it's remarkably satisfying to just fidget with. So a nice little fidget, also quite small, hold it nicely in your hand, really quite useful. There's the obvious ones, the Fidget Cubes, very very much around at the moment, which have got different activities on them, but again can be a bit clicky, so that can be an issue. Things like this are less clicky, they're quite smooth, they just just keep moving them round, but it can get noisy, so that those can be issues. So fidgets are something we can use to calm, whether it be to calm us down. There's one here which is actually good if you've got tension, because there's like I don't know if you can see, there's like a sponge in the middle, then there's all these little balls, and what you do is you get one that's by the hole and you push at it until it goes into the hole, then you get another one and you push at it until it goes into the hole, and so on. In fact, that can be quite useful for stress relief. There's other areas that we can use though that, again, not costly but really add support. The sort of time-outy things. So it can be actually time out of the classroom. So it could be sending a child on a quick errand because you can see they're getting stressed by what's happening in the classroom. Oh, could you just go and take that to the secretary's office? Great, it just gets them. It can be a note that just says he needed to move. It's folded up, put away so he can't read it, she can't read it. Take it away. Gives it to the secretary, who then puts back a little thing that says thanks, folds it up, gives it back. They bring it back. They've gone for a walk, they've come back, they've got a purpose for that walk, but it's given them that time out, time to just calm down. Rest breaks. This is useful in exams, but it needs to be a part of their actual practice. So sometimes, just to keep that concentration, they might just need to literally go to the back of the class and come back to their seat. They might need to go for a little walk. Again, it could be not for a time out, but for a refocusing of the mind. Another thing is prompts. So in an exam, you might be able to prompt somebody by just tapping their shoulder, tapping the desk, just to remind them back on task. Again, it needs to be common use, because if it's not used all the time, they won't, you're tapping their desk, it won't do anything. But if they know that means get on with your work, it will actually help them in an exam without you actually saying anything. It would have to be applied for as an access arrangement. Same with additional time, giving somebody additional time for a task. Sorry, I'm just picking up another fidget, by the way. Just these are gaming dice in geometrical shapes, and they just So satisfying. So good. I do like them. But anyway, back to what I was saying, additional time. So if you have additional time in an exam, it needs to have been regular standard practice. So if you don't have it as standard practice and you don't teach the child how to use that additional time, they won't use it. They'll go into the exam, they'll be told they've got 20 minutes extra time and they won't use it. That isn't helpful. So we need to make sure we have that additional time. Okay, that's really important. If they've got additional time for an exam, they will only get it if it's regular practice. It's only worth having if they've been taught how to use it. So that's another thing. Simplifying tasks. Instead of having to do this, this, this and this, they might just have to do this and this, or just this. Just simplify the task. Change the way in which a task is presented. And more important, I mean, there's so many other ideas we can talk about. I'm limiting it to a sensible amount of time. Focus, concentration time. Targeted, deserved praise. I've left that to last, but it's not because it's least important, it's most important. If you tell somebody who has a special need that they're good, they've done well, they won't necessarily believe you. Okay, it's if you've got low self-esteem, if you don't believe in yourself, why should you believe? Oh yeah, you said that because you're a teacher. You said that because you're my mum. There needs to be a reason for that praise. So explain, well done because you've actually managed to make your handwriting much more legible. That's fantastic. I can read this. That they can't argue with. Well done because you have corrected your own spelling. Fantastic. Well done because you remembered to use a capital letter for the word I. Well done because although you got the answer wrong in that maths, you did some amazing working out and it was just that you reversed those numbers, that actually you really understood the concept. Well done. Targeted, deserved praise. I recently worked with somebody who called themselves stupid. And as it happens, their dyslexia profile is really similar to mine. So I said to them before we started, I said, am I stupid? And they're like, no. Do you think I'm stupid? No, I don't think you're stupid. They were quite shocked, I said, okay, well, what about, are you stupid? Or down here. Do you think you're stupid sometimes? Yes. Okay. Now look at these figures. So it's the numbers. And I showed him how similar his intellect and my intellect were. And I said, look, if you think you're stupid, well, our brains are working in a very similar way, so I must be stupid. No, you're not stupid, you're not stupid. Well, now do you see that you might not be stupid? Because if you think he said, you're intelligent, right? If you think I'm intelligent, you must be intelligent. And we had this discussion, and at the end of it, I said to him, which was a bit mean, really, I said, so if you say that you're stupid, you're really saying that I'm stupid. And he was absolutely, no, really shocked by that. And I was a bit mean, but it got the point home that, we need to make our children believe in themselves. We can do it by offering them strategies that make the playing field level so that they can access things. We don't always want equality, everyone having the same. We want equity, everybody having the same opportunity. If you've got two people trying to see over the fence and one of them is 6 foot tall and one of them is 4 foot nothing, and there's no platform for the one who's 4 foot nothing and the fence is 5.5 foot tall, that's not equality. Oh, they've got the same thing. Yeah, it's equality. Is it equity? Can he see over the fence? Better still, let's take the fence away. But you see what I mean? Let's give people the tools. And by the way, giving somebody tools and they don't have a need doesn't hurt them either. So let's just make sure we've got these tools, these strategies available, and let's support our children. Thank you.